Who will the top 10 teams in college football be in 2025? Who will they be? Let me know in the comment section below before I tell you who my top 10 teams are for 2025. And by that, I mean who will be the best teams in America when whichever team that wins the title hoists it. Who will be the top 10 teams? These are my top 10 power rankings. I'm not a computer, not an algorithm, not totally unbiased, or at least unbiased relative to the information I'm fed. So I'm not going to call it power ratings, but these are my power rankings, top 10 for the 2025 season. Not all of these teams I'm predicting to make the playoff, by the way, but I think they will be the 10 best teams in America when it's all said and done. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit the notification bell, like the video to give us a boost into the algorithm, and tell us your top 10 teams down in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to reply to as many top 10 lists as I can, just giving some of my thoughts and saying, unless I think it's absolutely horrific, that I think it's probably a pretty good top 10. This is a very wide open year this year, I think. I'm going to start from the 10th best team and finish with the best team in America, at least in my opinion, although I think the best team in America is pretty unanimous. Also, check my description for any links to join my Discord server or support the channel monetarily. At number 10, we have Alabama. 9-4, 5-3 last year. Their preseason win total's 9.5. They're second in Bill Connolly's S&P Plus, being viewed as 27.9 points better than the average college football team. And the RP on the screen, that's returning production. They returned 64% of their 2024 production, 29th in America. I love Alabama because they have a deep roster. I think Kalen DeBoer is the third best coach in America. And on my all-SEC team, I have 18 players on my top 4 SEC teams and 4 additional players on my 5th and 6th teams. That's third in terms of number of all-SEC players, and I think they have one of the better staffs in the SEC as well. Not quite the best, but I like Alabama. I have questions with them at quarterback. The quarterback competition actually gives me pause for 2025, and I think their offensive line's overvalued. But I love Jam Miller. I love Ryan Williams, Isaiah Horton, Jeremy Bernard. I think that Tim Keenan III is one of the better D tackles in America. Love LT Overton and Deontay Lawson. And Bray Hubbard, Keon Sabb, Zabian Brown, Damani Jackson, and Deshaun Jones. That's quite the defensive back room right there. Number 9, I have Michigan. 8-5 last year, 5-4 in Big Ten Conference play. Their win total's 8.5. They're 10th in preseason S&P Plus, viewed as 21.5 points better than the average college football team, and they returned 65% of their 2024 production. Michigan, what I love about them is their defense and the fact that I believe they are going to get better on defense, and they're going to reload in parts on the D-line. D-line is going to take a big step back, yes, but it will still be one of the better units in America with Rayshon Benny, Trey Pierce, Trey Williams, Damon Payne Jr., and Ike Iwuna. All of these players are going to be around or over 300 pounds, and they have more players buried in the depth chart that are around 300 pounds, capable bodies to play. Derek Moore, I think, is an All-American caliber edge, and TJ Guy and Cam Brand, I think, are players that'll step up too. They return all of their DBs and linebackers outside of Makari Page and Will Johnson, who was injured for half the year. Offensively, they do return enough on the O-line to where maybe they'll improve, maybe they weren't, but I think the O-line at the end of the year was far from the problem, especially on the interior. And Bryce Underwood is a much better quarterback, even as a true freshman, than anyone starting for Michigan last year, by a mile. Their staff has questions, but it has upgraded, bringing in the OC Chip Lindsey from North Carolina. At 8th, I have Miami. 10-3 last year with a 6-2 ACC record, 8.5 preseason win total. They're 18.8 points better than the average college football team per Bill Connolly's preseason S&P Plus. That's 12th. And they returned 57% of their 2024 production. That's 60th. I love Miami. Love them. In fact, per my ACC team, all ACC team, they have 23 players, the most in the conference. And when I factor in the 5th and 6th team, the honorable mention teams, they have the most in the conference by a mile, by 7 players more than even Clemson, who's second there. What holds them back is their lack of an obvious alien, and the fact that they're still trying to transform their roster from having to use the portal in some ways to being so talented that they only need to use it supplementally. Carson Beck, I like him. I think he could be an All-American at QB, but he has some health questions. And the problem, too, with Miami is they're stacked in some positions that aren't as important as others. I think they're stacked at running back, for example, but at defensive tackle, they have some concerns there. Like, they don't have a proven guy who's close to an All-American level, I think, now that, Ruben Bain Jr.'s definitely at D end. For a brief portion there, I think he was listed at edge. I love Ruben Bain Jr. I love Akeem Mesidor. I think their linebacker group with Raul Aguirre Jr., Mohamed Touré, and Wesley Besant is going to be good. And with Charles Brantley coming in, along with Xavier Lucas and O.J. Frederick coming back in the new DC, I think their defense will be good this year. And Francis Mauigoa is the best offensive tackle in America. Doesn't hurt either. At 7th, I have Indiana. Lowest team out of all these in preseason S&P Plus, 23rd, viewed as 12.2 points better than the average college football team. They returned 62% of their production. Preseason win total is 8.5, and their record in 2024 was 11-2, 8-1 in Big Ten play. I'm going to keep it simple with Indiana. They were top 10 in FPI and returned 62% of their production, which is more than Tennessee, more than Ohio State, more than Oregon, more than Texas, more than Georgia, more than Ole Miss. They return a lot more than other teams' top 10 FPI. Now, Indiana also doesn't have the talent or pedigree those teams do, but Fernando Mendoza's getting some NFL draft buzz. I think he might be an All-American this year in the system that he's in. They brought in Roman Hemby at running back from Maryland. I love Pat Coogan and their guards, their interior O-line. Elijah Surratt's one of the best wide receivers, bless me, in America. What I love about them especially is their defense under Bryant Haynes. Tyreek Tucker and Dominique Ratcliffe are great at defensive tackle. Kamara could be the best D-end in the nation, and Pons could be the best corner in the nation, and they upgraded their special teams. And staffs typically have their biggest impact in year 2. Indiana staffs in year 2. So there's a good chance this team could be better than last year. I think a much better chance than a lot of people believe. At 6th, we have Ohio State. Now, from 7th to 6th, I think there is a jump especially in terms of being able to win it all. I don't think Indiana or anyone before them has a really even solid chance of winning it all. It's a chance, but not solid. Ohio State, meanwhile, is a good chance of winning it all. 14-2 last year, 7-2 in Big Ten Conference play. They won it all. Their preseason win total is 10.5. They're first in S&P Plus, viewed as 29.5 points better than the average college football team, and they're 92nd in returning production at 48%. When I look at Ohio State, I see a team that is loaded. I see Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, who I think are the 2 best wide receivers in America. Caleb Downs, I think, is the best defensive player in America. I love Arvell Reese at linebacker. Love him. Sonny Styles comes back, which is good. And I think their starting defensive line, while not elite or near elite, will be good or great. Depth is a concern there, though. They have Max Clear at tight end, who will be awesome. And a lot of people love their O-line. And I think it's going to be a good unit. But elite, I don't quite think so. And Julian Sayin, while I'm pretty optimistic about him, it's not known whether he's going to be elite or not. There's just a lot that's leaving, and both coordinators are gone and replaced with guys that don't have the same pedigree as the previous ones. That's why I have them at 6th. But they could be first. This is the first team on the list who I can confidently say I can see them actually being first when it's all said and done. At 5th, I have Clemson. 10-4, 7-1, win total of 9.5, 23.3 points better than the average college football team per S&P Plus, 8th nationally there, and first in returning production, bringing back 80% of their players. Clemson bringing back 4/5 of their production's insane. I think Cade Klubnik's the best quarterback in the country. Ryan Linthicum is a great center. I love Blake Miller and Tristan Lay at tackle. I think they have the 3 best receivers in the ACC. TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco Jr., and Antonio Williams. And then you got Peter Woods, DeMonte Carpart, TJ Parker, Will Helt, Jaheim Lawson, Stephilan Green. A 6-deep D-tackle room. It's much deeper than that, but those are 6 guys who I think are great or better college football players. And they upgraded their defensive staff. So watch out. Clemson can win it all this year. Very confident that they can. we have Oregon at 4th. Oregon is higher on my list than others because I think, while they lose a lot, because their roster wasn't quite where Texas's or Ohio State's or Alabama's or Georgia's was last year. It was close, and they got a lot of players drafted, much like those schools, but some of those were through the portal more than others. Like Oregon used the portal more heavily than any of those schools. And they're in a position right now where they're transitioning from a team that is leaning more heavily on the portal because they want to win now, and they have to win now to lean more on the portal. They have to lean on the portal more to win now. And now they're transitioning to a team that is relying more on their recruiting talent and developing. And I'm high on that. I think Lanning punched above his weight class last year. 13-1, 9-0. Their win total's 10.5 preseason. They're viewed as 24.7 points better than the average team per S&P Plus, which is 7th. 43% returning production, which is 104th. I love Mackay Hughes. I love Mateo Uyunglele and Tatum Tuioti. I think Betcher coming back at linebacker is huge. And I think that Trey McNutt or Naeem Offord, or more importantly, Brycen Moore, I think a lot of those true freshmen, the higher-ups, are going to shine. And then combine that with Isaiah World, Alex Harkey, Manuel Pregnon, those 3 incoming transfers on the O-line, and Iapani Lalolu. This team, once again, is going to be a bowling ball. The only reason they had that one loss is because Ohio State was even more of a bowling ball last year and the best team in America. We have Georgia at 3rd. Speaking of a bowling ball, I would not underestimate Georgia this year. 11-3, 6-2 in SEC play. It was Kirby Smart's worst team since 2016. Their preseason win total is 9.5, 4th in preseason S&P Plus at 26.9, and they return 46% of their production. They have the best head coach in America. I think the 3rd best staff in America. I love their defense. I love their D-line. I think that Christian Miller and Xavier McLeod could be the best defensive tackle duo in America this year. I love C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, what they have at linebacker there. K.J. Bolden, great young safety last year. I think he'll step up and have an even better year in 2025. I'm not worried about Gunnar Stockton because I think the O-line will maybe not have the same ceiling it did last year, but the probability of having that many injuries and instability I think is low. And they improve at running back, Nate Frazier and Josh McCray. They'll be healthier there. So I believe that they're going to do better at running the ball. Their offense may not have the same ceiling, but at the same time, their wide receiver core gets way better. So if Stockton can take steps forward, I am confident this team can win it all. Even if he doesn't necessarily, their defense and what they have just talent-wise gives them a chance, more than a chance. Looking at Texas, 13-3 last year, 7-1 in the SEC. Once again, 9.5 win total. No team in the SEC is a higher win total than 9.5. 26.4 points better than the average team per Bill Connolly's S&P Plus. That's 5th. And they return 51% of their 2024 production, which is 82nd. I have Texas with the 2nd best staff in America. I have Arch Manning as a preseason elite QB, All-American. I have him as a top 8 QB, top 10 QB nationally. Don't know if I'm quite all in on the top 5, but he'll be better than Quinn Ewers, I think. This will be a stronger year for quarterbacks overall, and he'll be placed higher than Ewers was, so that will be very helpful. I love C.J. Baxter healthy, combined with Contravion Wisner and Jarrett Gibson. It'll be a loaded running back room. And their O-line, you know what it'll do? It'll reload. G.J. Campbell's the only consistent starter coming back, but I think Cole Hudson, Neto Umozolu, and Trevor Gooseby and Brandon Baker are going to have big years. Wingo will break out, bring in entries from the portal, along with D tackles Cole Brevard, Murad Watson, and Travis Shaw will help too. And they have the best linebackers in America with Anthony Hill Jr., Trey Moore, and Liana Lofu. And don't forget about Colin Simmons and Michael Taff on defense either. And last but not least, Penn State, who I think is the best team. So from Indiana to Ohio State, we had a jump. We had kind of a cliff from Ohio State down to Indiana. From Penn State down to Texas, I think there's a little bit of a cliff too. They have the best staff in America, easily best coordinator duo between Jim Knowles and Kolnicki. Combined offensive and defensive play callers, easily the best. They went 13-3 last year, 8-1 in Big Ten play. Their preseason win total is 10.5. Third in preseason S&P Plus, 27.7 points better than the average college football team per Bill Connolly. And they returned 65% of their 2024 production, which is top 25. They returned Drew Aller, who I think is a top 5 quarterback, Nicholas Singleton, who I think will be the best running back in America this year, Allen, who I think is a top 10 running back. They bring back Dawkins and Olavega Ione, who I think are top 10 guys on the interior. Cooper Cousins, I think, will step up. They have 3 tackles, Nolan Rucci, Anthony Dunco, and Drew Shelton, who have NFL written in their futures. And they fixed the wide receiver room. Pena, Ross, and Hudson coming in from the portal gives them 3 quality starters. And I think Denmark might be good enough to be a reliable 4th guy in case injuries happen or they maybe want to spread out defenses. Tight end, there'll be a drop-off, but they'll reload some there with Luke Reynolds stepping up and Khalil Dinkins coming back. And I think they have one of the deepest defensive lines in the nation, more so at D-tackle. DN, they suffered some injuries there. I think that they're a little bit thin there, but they returned Dennis Sutton. And I think with Knowles, I think that their linebackers and safeties will tackle better. And that was a problem with them at linebacker, was tackling. And then A.J. Harris, I think, is going to be the best corner in America this year. So a lot of words to fit in, so I was tripping over myself. But I love Penn State this year. This is, I think, going to be one of the best teams, not just this year, but even in recent memory. There is a chance that this team can be viewed as better than the previous 3 or even 4 national champions, or at least some of them. I'll go out and say that. And I'll even make a video on that. So make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell, especially if you want to see that video explaining why I think Penn State can be one of the better teams, not just this year, but in recent memory. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you all around and see you very soon.